Ivan is a 25-year-old coal miner who is a father of two and a loving husband. But over the last 1 year, he hasn't quite been himself. He is having intense fatigue after the job is done and has had several minor infections all throughout the year, but has been ignoring all of these symptoms because he has to work, and taking a leave would mean a financial crisis. And one fine day while he's going to work, he has a bout of cough that is so severe that makes his chest hurt like an elephant is standing on top of it. And when he notices his hand, which was covering his mouth when he was coughing, he notices the entire hand is covered in blood. He's rushed to the hospital and Dr. Yuri is treating him. But when Dr. Yuri takes his blood for investigations and looked it up under the microscope, he cannot believe his eyes and quietly whispers, "The demon has him too." Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Anuj Pachhel and welcome to episode 3 of Case Files, a series where we discuss amazing, interesting cases that have happened in real life throughout history. A series that will make you realize how beautiful and complex the human body actually is. But before we go ahead, I want to tell you about Sankalp Bharat, which is your one-stop 360-degree solution for preparation of NEET. Sankalp Bharat provides a holistic approach towards your preparation, using mock tests, live classes, videos, courses, notes, and daily practice papers. All of the highest quality at the most affordable price. It is made by a highly experienced faculty that has mentored lakhs of students all across the country to achieve their dreams. For example, Tarun sir and MD sir. The app also provides free quizzes, updates and doubt sessions by subject experts. So if you've taken a drop for preparation, Sankalp Bharat's Neutron 2.0 batch will be the perfect batch for you. And the best part is it is one of the most affordable subscriptions that you can add for your preparation, and using my code ANUJ, you can additionally get 25% off. It will cost you just 2,600 for 14 months. That's amazing. So use the first link in the description to get the app and start your preparation today. Now back to case files. For this story, we need to go to a place much far away from here, but we also need to go back in time. A place and time just right to create a tragedy that would affect the lives of millions of people. A scenario that would transform everything. Let me take you back to 1965 USSR. Mr. Ivan is a coal miner in central Russia from this local town called as Mulsavlo. He's a 25-year-old guy working full-time to take care of his family and his two kids. For the last 1 year, he has been feeling gradually progressive fatigue at the end of each day, which is so severe that he is not even able to have his food. And for the past few months, the clothes which were once fit to him are now getting loose. He is having unintentional weight loss, and the bad part is that he has been ignoring these symptoms for a long time because the financial situation was not up to the mark. One fine day when he leaves for work, he starts coughing up. The bout of cough is so violent that it hurts like hell. Amidst the tears and the pain, he sees his hand, which was covering his mouth, trying to stop the cough. It is covered entirely in blood. Struggling to get up, he calls for help and luckily somebody finds him. As he's been taken to the local doctor, his nose starts to bleed as well. The man has lost a lot of blood and he is almost on the verge of passing out. As he's rushed to the hospital, Dr. Yuri quickly pinches his nose to stop the bleeding, a procedure that we commonly do when we have epistaxis. The cough had subsided at that point, but one steroid injection was also given by the doctor. This helps him breathe better. Dr. Yuri also starts some fluid and Ivan is stabilized. And finally the bleeding has stopped. The doctor gets one good look at Ivan. The man is very pale and the bones are starting to appear. He is very thin built and the ribs are also visible. Looks like he has been in a chronic malnutrition state since a long time. It looks like he has been battling several infections altogether. Ivan's wife Anna also arrives at the scene and tells the doctor more about his condition. You see, Ivan was perfectly healthy about a year ago. He used to go outside, catch fishes, take his kids to play, and also was a very good miner. But ever since last year, he has been growing fatigue. Anna also tells Dr. Yuri about the fevers which he has had several times during the year, and a particular swelling that has been growing inside his axilla, in his armpit, since the last 3 months, which started out very small but has now progressed to quite a big size. She also says that she has had a miscarriage 1 year ago, and because of that, nothing has ever been the same between the couple. Concern about this is growing in the air. The doctor can feel it too. Later that night, the Soviet doctor sat down in his room pondering about the same thing, as this was the 5th case in the same month about a patient who came to him because of the same complaints: weakness, bleeding and swelling. And the striking fact was that all of these cases were from the same town, where for the past few years a lot of miscarriages were happening, a lot of children were getting sick and infected people were becoming more and more. There were rumors that a demon had cursed their land. Something was up, so he sat down to journal his findings, and his notes read exactly this, I quote: "Another young man from the town of Mulsavlo came to me today with a nosebleed and petechiae all over his body. The man looked pale and had a swelling in his axilla, and I suspect, like others, he is also suffering from AVS. End quote. The next day, Dr. Yuri draws Ivan's blood and processes it, takes it on a slide and observes it. And what the microscopy tells him is unbelievable. Same picture as those 5 other men in the same exact month from that same town. The red blood cells had fallen down quite a lot. Platelets were so few in number. But strikingly, the WBCs, the white blood cells, the immune cells of the body, were 10 times, 20 times higher than they should have been. The normal value for a WBC is around 5 to 11,000. Ivan's values were somewhere in the range of 1,50,000 to 2 lakhs per cubic millimeter. And more striking was the fact that these cells were immature. They were not functional. They were just present as is. The diagnosis was crystal clear. It was leukemia. It was blood cancer. Of the many ways leukemia could have presented itself, it chose to present this way, which is one of the worst ones. The main problem was that Dr. Yuri could not say a word to Anna or Ivan. He was forbidden to do so. Why? Secrets. The days of the USSR, secrecy were their top priority, and breaking that would mean death. All the doctors, including Dr. Yuri, had been told not to document a single case of cancer coming from that exact region, and they were instructed to mention it as an abbreviation and called as astheno-vegetative state, AVS for short. To save his life, with the diagnosis of AVS, the doctor referred him to a higher center. He did say something before Anna left, and that was, spend every moment with your family. The demon has taken over this land and your husband is living his last few months. With tears in her eyes, Anna finally left. What was the government hiding? Why couldn't the doctors report their cancers as they were? These secrets would not be revealed for another 40 years. And within this 40 years, several thousands would perish because of different forms of cancer. But no news would make it out of USSR because secrecy was their top priority. Leukemia is a disease of the WBCs. And in this case, the disease of a hematopoietic stem cell. A cell that produces all the different cells in your blood. In our particular case, it was acute T-cell lymphoblastic leukemia, in a short way called as T-cell ALL. Your blood contains 3 different types of cells, as you all might know, RBCs, WBCs and platelets. What happens in leukemia is that the cell which is making the WBC line undergoes a mutation. The stem cell which is present undergoes a DNA change, a DNA damage. This single stem cell, which is now a cancerous one, keeps on producing immature WBCs at 10 times the more faster rate, making the entire bloodstream flooded with WBCs which are immature, useless and are mutated severely. This one single cell whose DNA was damaged due to some reason is creating all the cancer. The stem cells are extremely prone to DNA damage because their DNA is always continuously dividing. This division makes it lightly coiled, which is much liable to break. Your bone marrow is a factory, and that factory has different sections for production of different cells, RBCs, WBCs and platelet. But what happens when this WBC section expands to take up the entire factory? The RBC production will go down, the platelet production will go down, and the WBC production will go up, exactly what the report said. When the RBCs go down, you get anemia, and that anemia causes you to feel fatigued, especially for a hardworking guy like Ivan. At the same time, when you get low platelet, what you have is bleeding. The same way Ivan presented, nose bleeds and a lot of blood after the cough. The small capillaries which are present in your lungs will rupture easily. They will not be plugged because platelets are not present. The same reason why his nose would bleed out. And when the WBCs are so high in number but they are absolutely useless, you will get infections which your body cannot control, which explains the fevers which he was having due to so many infections he was battling at the same time. This is the picture of leukemia that was painted inside Ivan's body by the mutated stem cell which was present. The swelling which arose in his axilla was just a lymph node which has enlarged quite a lot because it also happens to be the home for your immune system. That lymph node became a cancerous one. Ivan was started chemo for AVS in a different hospital, where he would die 6 months later. So exactly what was the government hiding? Let me tell you what we found out in the reports 40 years later. If this was just leukemia, I wouldn't even have considered it for a case files episode. But it is not. It is linked to something deeper. And that thing is the river which was flowing next through this village. The river was called as Techa River. This river supplied 24 different villages downstream, and the first village was Mulsavlov, the village from where Ivan was. As the incidence of AVS started to rise, the government started taking notice, and 23 out of the 24 villages were relocated. There were dams being constructed to stop the flow of the Techa River. The water made forbidden to drink, and even a river police was made to stand there with orders to shoot on sight to anybody who approaches the river. The agricultural lands which drained from the same water were banned to be used. People were given allowances to keep their mouth shut and just move away from that place, because something in that river was causing cancer at much higher rate. It was during the autopsies of the many dead people that we actually found out what was going on. The bones of these individuals who died from blood cancer or different cancers contained something very peculiar, and that thing was called as strontium. Strontium, if you take one look at the periodic table, you will know it is exactly similar to calcium in most of its properties. Calcium is something that is extensively found in our bones. The individuals of these villages who had died had a lot of strontium in their bones, which served the structural purpose of making the bones strong, but at the same time did something unimaginable. The strontium that they found was not an ordinary one, it was an isotope called as strontium-90, which was sadly radioactive. Radioactive in a way that it would release beta particles every time it decayed, with a half-life of around 18 years inside the human body. Strontium, like calcium, would enter the body using food and water and would go and incorporate into bones, where it would continue its beta decay, releasing a lot of radiation from within. And the bones, as you know, are lying very close to the bone marrow, as well as the periosteum stem cells which are present outside. So the main question is, how did this strontium get into these people's system at such a big rate? And the answer again lies in the Techa River. After Nagasaki was obliterated at the end of World War II, the Russians feared that their nuclear arsenal was lacking. And for this exact reason, they started a secret project, a project that would give them nuclear weapons later in the future. This was called as Project Uranium, the topmost secrecy of the USSR. They chose a site in central Russia to construct a plant that would enrich the different radioactive metals such as uranium and plutonium and provide USSR with military grade uranium and plutonium for the development of their nuclear arsenal. This site was so strategically implemented that the planes that were flying over them could not view this site because it was high up in the mountains, as well as so away from the border that the approaching troops would not see it. The secret was so big that entire villages and towns were constructed near it in 1946 and 1947 to cover up the fact that there were different nuclear reactors which were enriching the fuel. And at that time, little was known about the effects of radiation and especially about radiation waste disposal. So the enrichment process in which they concentrated the uranium, concentrated the plutonium, it generated a lot of heat. To cool that heat down, they used the water from the Techa River, and it was an open way. That means the water would flow, it would just cool down the reactor or absorb the few radioactive decay products as well as be irradiated. That water was let to flow away downstream where it would supply 24 different villages. Now the water is just getting irradiated with a lot of different radioactive substances. But how does strontium fit into place? It would not be until 1957 where disaster would strike. Ivan was just a child at that time and he remembers seeing this. The nuclear plant, which was the Mayak production, used to store all of its nuclear waste in stainless steel containers. Tons and tons of it, like 8,000, 9,000 tons of it were stored underground. And what happens is that if you store nuclear waste, it undergoes gradual decay, producing a lot of heat. It has to be cooled down just like the reactor. One of the cooling systems went faulty, and this fault led to production of so much heat and so much pressure that an explosion happened. On the 29th of September 1957 at 4:22 p.m., an explosion of unimaginable size would happen. That would lift up the 160-ton concrete slab placed over it and would release around 1,000 tons of nuclear radioactive waste up into the atmosphere. And when the explosion happened, the night sky was irradiated. There was a red, yellow and blue light coming from the sky because of the radiational decay that was happening in the particles up in the atmosphere. The demon had just woken up and it was about to take control of every single thing. The winds would carry the waste all over the place. When the rain happened, all the nuclear waste was brought down to the land, contaminating the streets, the schools, the kindergartens as well as the worship places. Obviously, the rainwater would also take all that waste and put it into the river where eventually all the rainwater used to go. So the concentration of radiation in the Techa River just increased by 20 to 30 times. And this is exactly how Techa River got all of its different radiational compounds. From strontium to yttrium to lithium to uranium, everything was present in that river. But as the river flows, the sedimentation happens and the heavier compounds settle down, but strontium is just 90. Strontium ka molecular mass is very, very less. So it kept on flowing, it flowed downstream, and soon the algae accumulated it like calcium. The phytoplanktons, the zooplanktons accumulated it. The bigger fish ate thousands of zooplankton, accumulated it 1,000 times more, and then the humans ate the fishes. Strontium 90 entered a biomagnification cycle which would take its concentration from 0.004 in phytoplanktons to 5 in humans. The water which was used in agriculture made the plants absorb it and then the humans eat that plants. Slowly and slowly strontium 90 infiltrated its way to the different humans, also infiltrated Ivan's bones. Same Ivan who used to swim in the Techa River, take his kids to go fishing in that same river and use the same water for drinking. Entire villages has just shortened their lifespan by decades without even having a single scratch on their body. This is the work of a demon. And that is what they believed as well. When atoms are radioactive, they emit different rays, ionizing or non-ionizing type. For example, normal light, it is non-ionizing type, it won't hurt your DNA. But the ionizing radiation has enough penetrating capacity that it will rip your DNA, it will rip the electrons out of it and will mutate you to an extent you cannot imagine. Of course, most of the cells who undergo this kind of DNA damage are repaired or either just kill themselves off due to apoptosis. It only takes one single cell to survive and to thrive and become a cancerous one. The Techa River was declared as a hazard. The villages were relocated. But the power plant kept on running for another 4 decades using the same principles that it had been doing. And this is what I wanted to bring to you using case files today. Estimates show that the Techa River in its entirety of length gave chronic radiation sickness to more than 5 lakh people. When the average exposure of radiation of those persons were measured, it was 10 times more than the normal safety approved value. There are tales of seeing glowing water during the darkest of nights because of the radiation. The official record estimates around 3,000 people dying out of 30,000 people, but the true figures are much higher. This nuclear disaster led to 3 times more nuclear contamination than the Chernobyl incident in 1980s. And this town and river was given the title of the most radioactive place on planet Earth for a very long time. It all happened because men wanted to control the power of atom. It all happened because men wanted to make nuclear weapons and did not pay enough attention to whether or not they should. Thank you so much everybody for watching my video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. It took me around 15 days to do the research, additional 5 to 6 days to make the script. All of the events that I talked about here are completely true. You can read about it using the links in the description. Anyways, if you did enjoy it, please make sure to comment down below. Episode 3 was awesome. Waiting for more such episodes, Anuj. Thank you so much. It's your boy Anuj. I'll catch you in the next one. And make sure to use the link in the description to go and download Sankalp Bharat. Goodbye.